Pick your nose now before it comes up, okay? Hey, everybody, how you doing? This is your friend. I don't even know. Maybe you're not my friend. Maybe you're just someone who just listens to the things that I talk about. I don't really know. I got someone special here in the office, and I think you're in for a treat. I don't know what else to say, and I don't even have a name yet for this thing. So, feel free to tell me what you think it is. Right now, the closest I got is Surviving with Shawn, but that kind of just a radio show, so you'll figure it out. But my friends, we have the one, the only, the chef, the man on top of the Unlimited Youth for Christ Canada. You know him as Tim, the Tool Man Coles.
There you go. Nice intro, Shawn.
Yeah.
And by the way, we are not in the same office. You said I'm in my office.
Yeah,
we can't be. We're physically distancing right now.
We are physically distant. Yeah, we're easily more than 2 meters apart. That's for sure.
Easily.
I don't want to go take a ruler out, but I'm sure we pass.
I'm doing it. I'm taking a ruler out.
So we just started talking off air before we got into this, and you're talking about how your son is getting his Xbox time, and I said, man, what a time to be a video gamer in all of this. But then you said, and I said if I was 20, I wouldn't have any issues because my university would be done for the year. I couldn't go to work, and the government's going to foot my bill right now. Man, this would be a time to be a gamer.
Yeah, it's time to get your thumbs in gear, right?
Oh my goodness, man! Just,
I'm terrible at it.
Oh,
I'm awful because I haven't played video games since the kids were little, and when they were little, we had a Wii, right? Okay. So you're doing this, your thing and whatever and all that stuff and swatting and everything else, and so when I try and play Xbox now, I'm like my hands are up here, my hands are over here, and it's just awful.
Man, yeah, I bet you your sons are like, really, Dad?
No, they don't even play anymore. They don't even invite me anymore.
They don't even. This is the life of the father, though. No, you don't get invited anymore. Yeah, and when you get invited to situations, they're either like ultimate celebrations, or we're gonna have to walk through a tough situation right now because that's what Dad does, right? Isn't that how that kind of works?
Yeah, we're just trying to stay close right now. It's good. Good with both boys.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. So
and hey, listen, before we get started, thank you for your investment in both of my boys' lives.
Okay.
They both look up to Shawn Naylor big time. And,
oh gosh.
Yeah.
We should. I'm gonna get them to go.
Okay. Funny story.
Give it
like
to
funny
me.
story. Okay. I wish I could show the picture of Shawn Naylor climbing up the Tower of Terror at Rock Ridge Canyon in Princeton, BC, with my son Clay. Shawn was shaking in his boots, like shaking.
That was the worst though, because okay, you guys don't understand. Let me explain the Tower of Terror for you. It's a giant phone pole stuck in the ground with a couple of things that you walk up. So far, okay. It does now at the base, it doesn't move. At the top, it moves. Okay,
sways.
Now it sways, but at the top, there's like a 3 2x4s kind of nailed together, widthwise, not lengthwise. Okay, so you have a little platform to stand on. And it's barely enough for my size 9 shoes, okay? Then, on top of this, he fails to tell you that his son that climbed up with me is a physical specimen, okay? With thighs that Thor would be jealous of, okay?
Yeah, we actually compared your thighs in some photos, and I think Clay's got you beat.
Oh, 100% he does. He's a skater. Why wouldn't he? He's enormous. And so I'm singing hymns going up this thing because I am not afraid of heights. I'm afraid of climbing up to the height from a ladder perspective. Everything else, okay. Because if you're snowboarding, you're jumping, Tim, listen, I can go up, I can come down. That's normal. But if I fall from that's not normal. That's not what's supposed to happen. And so you get up on top of this stupid pole, okay, with this no space. And then you're standing while it's moving and someone else has to begin the climb. And then
it starts shaking with somebody else's rhythm, right?
Oh my goodness. And then they have to stand up. Oh my goodness.
It was beautiful.
So I asked Cole, I'm like,
Clay. Everyone calls him Cole.
Yeah. Clay.
Yeah.
I'm like, Clay, listen, who wants to stand up first? And his calm tone, he says, you. But I know what he meant. He's like, you're going to fall off first. That's what he was trying to say. I was like, really, buddy? Okay. I'm like, all right. I'm like, my sons were watching this. Okay. So Tim's wife has my kids like hanging there. Hey, look, it's dad. He's going up to be an idiot right now. That's what's happening. He's going to fall down. He's going to die. And my sons are like, are you okay, dad? Like, this is all not good. So I give the
I don't know.
talk,
Yeah.
and I stand up. Then his son goes to stand up. But I'm like, have my hands on his shoulders while he's like straddling this piece of wood. And like, he just hits my shoulders, and he's a specimen. So when people are a specimen and they hit you, you feel it. And I know that I can't get rigid in this process, because if I do, then there goes Shawn. So I have to kind of like take the wave and absorb this thing and try to reposition myself without pushing him back. Because if he pushes and I push, then we're gone. Game
And
over.
you're about 60 feet off the ground.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Whoever thought this was a good idea, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But they should be shot. But that's
listen. I don't know how much banter you normally have at the beginning of your podcast, Shawn, but just to the, you called my son Cole. Okay, so Clay, which we chose his name Clayton, which means molded by God, was very intentional in calling him Clayton, and then he wanted to go with Clay. Okay, and then people like you call him Cole. So here's what we taught Clay to say to his principal in elementary school, who was the worst offender at calling him Cole. I said to Clay, I said, listen, okay, who's the worst offender? He goes, well, my principal. I said, okay, so here's what you say, okay? As respectfully as possible, say this. What kind of morons would my parents have been to have named me Cole Coles? And it worked.
Perfect. And I have called him Clay every single time. Even when I voice texted him from Siri, it's Clay. I just so happened to make that mistake now. Okay.
It's okay. I don't know how much banter you normally do at the beginning of your show, but let's.
This is the show.
Yeah,
okay.
This is the show. Well, thank you everybody for listening to Shawn's bantering.
Oh my goodness. Okay, but listen. First off, then we have to jump off of this pole to grab this bar. Again, there's no space with thunder thighs up there. But at the end of the day, it was all good. A lot of fun, a lot of laughs. And we're learning lots. It was a great experience for sure. Like, I obviously remembered it. I have the picture posted on IG, so it's legit. But Tim,
by the way, we are 651 kilometers apart right now. we are totally practicing.
We are totally practicing
physical distancing. Yeah,
it's good. Yeah, I like that better than social distancing.
Yeah,
I like physical distancing. That's a better way to say it, because I don't want to distance my socialness with anybody, because I'm a social guy. So yeah. So listen, you're the leader of this giant organization, yet you're like a super chill guy. How's that possible? Please explain me.
Well, yeah, it's hilarious. Yeah, Youth for Christ is it's by the grace of God, we're quite a large group across the country. So, and that's been that way and growing that way over years, and yeah, just have happened to have the opportunity to be part of it right now in a leadership role.
Now, how did you start? Like, walk me through your whole process of coming, like, because obviously at some point you weren't working for Youth for Christ, and then you walked into this. By the way, people, you'll hear us say Youth for Christ, Youth Unlimited for the whole process. That's two names that we have as our organization.
Schizophrenic, yeah.
So you can ask Tim later if you want to talk about that. I'll leave his contacts in the bottom. You'll see that there. Good.
Perfect.
So Tim, walk us through your whole like tell me about it. I want to know. Like, I've heard it a bit, but give me the best.
Well, I wasn't always with YFC, so but I have been for 26 years now. So, but yeah, the journey for us, I just knew, just really felt called by God as a young person, probably at the age of 15, 17, somewhere in there, that I should be in youth ministry of some kind, and so I went off to Bible college, right out of after high school, and met my wife, and that was awesome. Bridal college, so she got her MRS. And anyway, but we met and got married, but and then we went through some challenging times. We had a car accident in there where my wife was injured in the accident, and she wasn't really able to work much from that point on to today. So she's just been limited in what her ability has been to work. So it was quite a traumatic event, and that I thought then changed the trajectory of the course for me. So I was working in a warehouse then just to make ends meet, right out of Bible college, working in a warehouse. And we felt God call us to, or we were asked to direct a camp for a week, to volunteer for 1 week in the summer. And the only way we could do it was if I left my job, because my employer wasn't going to give me time off. So we prayed about it, and we felt that's what God called us to. So I left my job, and we had just bought a house and we had just bought a car. So the Lord was using that, leaving my job, as a faith foundation. We look back at it now as a faith foundation for what we have done since then. Mm-hmm. But so I left my job, was driving home for my last day at work, and just said to the Lord, "So Lord, when camp's over, where do I go for work?" Because 1 week of volunteering, and I felt the Lord put a name of a sports store in my mind while I was driving. So the next day I was in town picking up some supplies for camp, and dropped off a resume at the store, and the owner happened to be there, and we got into a conversation, and so anyway, he hired me, and after camp was over, and there was a great story there, and kind of what God did in that situation, that journey. And then from working in that sporting goods store, ended up being offered some other opportunities with some large sporting goods companies to be able to be in sales and that kind of thing, because I was a pretty good salesman. And at the same time, Youth for Christ in the Kawarthas in Peterborough, Ontario, approached me and asked me if I'd be their event coordinator. So we prayed and looked at the support raising model versus the the working for the large sporting goods company model, and picked Youth for Christ by faith, and that was 26 years ago.
And so then you got into Youth for Christ. You started as an event planner, is that right? You said that?
Yeah, so concert promoter and event coordinator. So back in those days, Peterborough was an A-list Canadian city for music. Okay. So we got all the, and this is in the 90s, right? The 80s, late 80s and early 90s. So the DC Talks, the Newsboys, the Petras, all that stuff. We had all that stuff coming through Peterborough. And that's what I did, promoted concerts, and then we ran other kinds of events as well, where we but in those days, like, you would sneeze a poster up on a wall, bad event, and 500 kids would show up to it, right? So it was a different time than it is today.
So then as you kind of, so from there, like, you're from event planner, you didn't just all of a sudden jump up to being the chief.
So about let's see, so back in 99 we opened a youth center in downtown Peterborough called the Bridge Youth Center. Okay. And that was a real turning point in the chapter. So we focused everything around a youth center in the downtown, and in the first 6 months of being open, we interacted with 600 different kids. And it is great, actually, through this COVID-19 crisis, we've been engaged with that group from 1999, either by Facebook, or yesterday we did a drive-by, dropped off a birthday present for one of our former youth center kids. And so anyway, it's just awesome. So started a youth center, and then after a few years became the executive director of the Kawarthas. And by the grace of God, he allowed us to build the ministry up from one youth center to multiple locations around the Kawarthas. And then in 2010, I moved to the national office to work with Dave Brereton. He was the national director at that time, and so I was the director of chapter development, working with all of our executive directors, and then eventually became the director of operations, sort of coordinating office and the national office response, and help and service to chapters. And then in 2018, July 1st, 2018, became national director. So
now, as you moved, like, was there another faith? Because each of the steps so far, you said there was like a faith element, like where for those of you that are listening, faith just means that we trusted in the Judeo-Christian God as he would lead and provide for the next step, which just means like finances, food, and pretty much that's what it, and whatever, finances and food. That's pretty much it.
Well, a lot more than that, I think.
Well, yes, but I'm just trying to boil it down for some people that might not be on that same plane. So you talked about a faith step going from like your job to the camp, from the camp to the sporting store, from the sporting store to the event coordinator, from event coordinator to Kawartha director. You said faith again. And then you kind of went, and then I became then second in command, then first in command. And I didn't hear the word faith element there. Um,
Well, it's
I
faith all
assume there
along the
is.
way. Totally. Yeah.
There must have been, because
Yeah.
then it's like, here's my thing for you. Since I'm on the ins, I work for the same organization, everybody. So he kind of had to do this, just so you know.
I had nothing on this afternoon.
Lucky for me. Okay, good. So I feel doubly as good right now. But just that, um, like you. So from the funding model is we develop a partnership with people, and that allows for the work to happen. Okay, and the connection with the community and these things. But it's a local kind of connection. So the people that you're meeting all the time are people that would have a potential to partner with the organization in whatever facet. And then he moved to a national, which is kind of overseeing Canada. Now the title sounds really nice, national. Um, did you find that there was a struggle in that funding model going up to that, or was there like a group of people that came up with you? Like, how did you walk through that?
Yeah. So again, I'd go to the funding model. I would say that, people, so we raise support to do the work that we do, right? So some people call that a missionary model of fundraising and stuff like that, to support, your salary and some of your expenses and stuff like that. And then quite often when I tell people about that, they say, oh, so you have to raise support. And I go, no, I get to raise support.
Mm.
And I mean that, like I mean that it is a privilege. I've enormously enjoyed the privilege of being able to share with people what God's called us to do, what we feel God's called us to do, and invite them to join us in that journey. So that's been awesome. And so you're casting vision, you're sharing, what God's put on your heart to invite people into, but they have to be on board with that. And so, we share that vision with people and trust God that He would move in their hearts to get behind us in what we're doing. And so He has done that all the way along the way. So there was a coming to national, I thought that I would lose some of that support. I actually got more. We actually had more people want to get involved and be a part of what we were doing, which was really, really cool. And in fact, I would say that largely, like, we have about 45, 50 staff on our national team. Most of our national team are fully funded well. With the model of support raising that we have. And we've done a lot of work on helping people to reframe their understanding of again, the difference between have to do and get to do. The difference between asking someone for money and inviting them to partner in what God's called you to. Those are two very different things. And so we've worked really hard on those fundamentals, and I think it's paid off. But it's a faith step. It's totally a faith step, and there's got to be a calling there. I was actually watching we were watching The Chosen. Have you seen that series yet, Shawn? The Chosen? Dude, how come nobody knows about this? Everybody I ask.
Well, because everyone's watching The Tiger King, but go ahead, tell me.
Okay, The Chosen. Okay,
I'm writing it down.
Yeah. So Chosen. It's an app on Google Play or the App Store or whatever. You can get it. It's a video series of, right now there's, I think, 8, sort of like, it's like a TV series. It's made like a TV series. Okay. Right now there's 8 that are available, and they're just producing season 2 right now. So season 1 is 8 shows. Season 2 they're making. So anyway, season 1 is about kind of what it was like in the times when Jesus was on earth and was stepping into doing his ministry. So at about the age of 30, he would show up on the scene, and that's kind of where this TV series begins. And I'm sharing this with you because there's I think it's in maybe the 3rd or 4th show in the series. It goes to, you were introduced to Peter, the Simon, who becomes Peter, and we're introduced to him early on, and then we're kind of following his journey. And he's kind of a hustler, and like, he's a fisherman, right? But things aren't going well. They got to pay Roman tax, and it's like he's trying to make his way here, make his way there, and he's just a huckster, but he anyway, he comes in from a night of fishing, and he was desperate to catch fish that night in the series, the way they depict it. I can't imagine it wouldn't be very much like this, but he comes in from fishing all night, not catching anything, which of course we know that from scripture, right? That Peter comes in, or Simon comes in and hasn't caught anything all night. And Jesus says, cast your net on the other side of the boat, like your net down. And you can just imagine Peter, like, Shawn, you and I are fishermen, right? Like, we know when the fish are off, like they're not biting today. It doesn't matter what I throw out there, they're not going to bite. And Peter throws his net down, and they capture, very, very well how this miraculous catch of fish. Like, the net is so full that it's almost bursting, but it doesn't break. They bring all the fish in the boat. It fills the whole boat. They have to bring another boat over to make sure that they don't lose the fish, because they've got more fish than one boat can hold. And Peter comes and falls at Jesus' knees and says, "Depart from me, I'm a sinful man." And Jesus says, "Follow me." And when I watched that, this goes back to, you said this by faith thing, right? When I watched that, I'm getting tears in my eyes. And my son Eli, my 15-year-old, he looks over at me and he says, "You okay, Dad?" And I said, "I know that calling. I know that calling. I know that calling when Jesus called me too, to follow him and to do." And so that's part of the understanding in terms of how we raise support is, you got to be called, right? And to be just to have that reminder of that calling is really, really important.
Well, and I think though that, like, that perspective, or at least that leaping off point, like, it's foundational to Youth Unlimited, Youth of Christ, before the process even begins. Are you called? I think a lot of jobs in general, regardless of where you find yourself, if they ask that question in the beginning, they would find better workers.
Well, we ask the question now. We've actually changed the question, but we do use the word call. We say, "Do you have a sense of a calling?" Because it's not always easy to articulate a calling, or sometimes you can manufacture a calling because you're trying to get somewhere, right? But to have someone articulate a sense of a calling, right? That I have this sense of calling, is pretty powerful. But you're right. Yeah, if people were asked that question, a lot more people would probably be a lot happier in what they're doing if they
And then
felt
you
a
could
sense
also,
of calling to it.
For sure. I think you could give someone let's say, you're like, "I'm going to do this job for 2 years." Let's say you said that to yourself, to whatever job that was. At least you've already put that out in the front. And so the employer's like, "Okay, so 2 years, this is where I can put you. This is where you," like, it's going to make a much more strategic, a greater strategic move for the employer and the employee. So then they see the light at the end of the tunnel the whole time way through this process. And
yeah. But even in a it doesn't matter what your job is, right? To have a sense of calling in that job, right? So we place a heavy amount of emphasis around understanding why we're doing what we're doing. That's in our national office team. We do. So our national office statement is that we all live by, to serve and lead YFC Canada, strengthening health, unity, and effectiveness. So that's why we exist. That's why our national office, we call it our national service team of those 45 people. That's why we get up in the morning. That's why we start our day. And then every decision that we make, everything that we do is to accomplish those things: serve and lead, strengthening health, unity, and effectiveness. And I think that, as within an employee in any role, to know kind of what your day job, like to be able to articulate in one sentence what it is that you do. And so you get up in the morning, and when you kind of forget and lose sight of what it is that you do, that you're able to say in kind of one sentence, "This is what I do," and kind of have a mission statement for that is really important. Hey, look at that home office. You got a little dude walking in there.
Where you at, buddy?
Papa. I love it when they call you Papa Shawn. Papa Shawn.
Papa Shawn. This one is like slow to talking. Hello.
Hey. Hello.
Salut.
Bonjour.
Salut. No, salut.
Salut.
Hello. There it is. He's just wild. Yeah, no, this is the reality we have, everybody, right now. This is what he would normally be at daycare, and he has just been excited to be home every day.
Yep, it is what it is right now.
It is.
It's awesome,
right, buddy?
He gets to be a part of this. Yeah.
And he doesn't talk, but he is extremely vocal, which is he has sounds. So there's
Hello. So back to that point, Shawn, about that one sentence job description I described. Andy Stanley has a leadership podcast called the Andy Stanley Leadership Podcast. So anybody can look it up. And in there, there's a podcast called Simply Lead. It's either Lead Simply or Simply Lead. And in there, he talks about this idea of a one-sentence job description. He does a better job than anybody of describing it. So I would refer any listeners to that.
Okay, the Andy Stanley. I'll link that down on the bottom. So you can go take a look at that. Man, buddy. So you got 15-year-olds and plus. I got 6 and under.
Yep, I've been there.
So, I mean, for you, like this whole process of like, now we're in this kind of like not shutdown, but we're in reassessing, revisioning, kind of like, how do we operate as like, I think some of the cool things that have come out of this whole like Corona thing and talking about job descriptions, like what do you do? We have time to legitimately reflect on it. What are we doing? Assess what of the things that we're doing are not producing. And it's so difficult in a ministry context to say what you're doing is useful or not useful because of like, we value the one as much as we value the 1,000.
Right.
So like, that's always the difficulties, like, cause you have people who work and they're putting in just as many hours, if not more with you than you are, but they're reaching maybe 2 or 3 people. Right.
Yeah.
And that's no less for us than it is someone who's reaching 12,000 people. Like oh, well,
I love it.
Yes, this is my life right now. And so
Yeah.
all I was just saying is that how like this has changed how we view everything. How I wonder what's going to happen to families that are dual income families. How are they going to shift and adjust now when they've all of a sudden been afforded this lifestyle where it's like someone staying home with the children and seeing the progression of the child, the children. Even my wife she's like less stressed right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just different. Like for the first time in her entire existence, she can sleep in. Figure that one out.
Like, I hope that we're all open to the shifts that we can make because the whole world has been forced to pause. And we like, when have we ever had this opportunity before, right? Everybody stops, everybody thinks. I have up on my wall. You can't see it because maybe I could probably put it up there. There it is. It says "Cease striving." I don't know if that's backwards or not.
I can see that. Yeah.
So that's from the scripture, "Be still and know that I am God." And we've got this reset, right? So be still, and in the stillness, I hope that we do reassess our priorities and come out in a different place.
And that's exactly what I'm hoping myself. That's what I'm hoping for too. And one of the things that's been great for, at least for me, is I get to like right now I preach every Wednesday night from my basement, and there is nobody in the room. And I practice that, but I always practice knowing that someone's going to be hearing it later.
Eventually,
right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, that's going to work here. They might laugh there, whatever. But now nobody's like live in my room, and I'm not going to see them essentially with that same talk or whatever, that same message. And so it's I have less to say than I thought. So, which was interesting to see that. Like I preached the last time, I preached my whole message and I said all the words I said in it. And it was 24 minutes or something like that. And normally I'm 35. So I'm like, oh, there's 10 minutes of jargon I'm putting in there.
Do you know what it is? It's 10 minutes of energy, of response to the audience, right? Because you get someone laughing at something and it reminds you of something else. And then you kind of go off over here and you have to come back again.
Oh, for sure. And like, and the thing is like, I'm reaching a whole nother audience that I would never have reached, who would never, like, let's say if I was a comedian, would never pay to come see me, or would come to a conference that I was at. But now these these people are just chiming in. And what's interesting, that radio show that I had, like that I've started my own one, is I had a young person come on yesterday. So I opened up a Zoom chat so you can talk to me live while I'm running a Facebook Live. And so I made a subject matter that I figured wasn't clickbait, but it was like kind of clickbaity, but it was, is pornography good? And I wanted to see, like, very few people commented on that for sure, because they don't want to be labeled that they were watching this, but I get to see who was watching it anyways. But there was a young girl who private messaged me and started talking about her experiences and some of the things she sees her friends going through. And she's like, I think this is because of pornography. And I'm like, see, and that's somebody who's younger and we think that we're not talking. She's like, I feel like pornography is educating me and not my teacher or not my parents. I'm like, oh my goodness. This is what I'm seeing live right now. And this has only been this access has been granted because we've been able to pause, or a whole bunch of other doors have shut down. So I'm like, okay, so how do I reinvest in that? So that for me, it was like, okay, I get to keep, I have the privilege of reinvesting in that because I saw that there's some fruit being produced from it. So how do I cultivate that again so that brings more people into the conversation, so we can get to the subject matters or things that we can't really talk about in our public system. So it's been interesting to watch that happen. And a lot of them have been like, hey, you were a supply teacher at my school, or you've done this thing. So so like for yourself, I mean, you do lots of emails, lots of phone calls on the regular. So did you notice much of a change as we became to this place of pause?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I usually fly every other week and somewhere, and I have meetings. I travel, a couple hours, probably, I'm on the road 2 to 3 days a week into Toronto or somewhere. So yeah, I've definitely been a step back for sure. I do have a home office. I've been set up like this for 10 years now. It's been awesome, but but it's we've definitely noticed it. Although it's funny, yesterday for the first time, we did a birthday party. Like we went to someone's, like we did a drive-by, dropped a present off on the table, honked the horn and stuff, and this little kid, and that was the first time I was actually out since last Friday, like that I actually left my house, other than to go for a walk, right? Like to go into town kind of thing. So
yeah, I saw that thing that you posted. Did someone like drop that on the road?
Oh, they were everywhere. They had them. It was like I'm on the country road, and I'm like, there's these little stones dropped. Like I could see they were all over the place. They were at everybody's mailbox, and it was cool.
Yeah. So for those of you that are listening to this audio, Tim was walking down the road, and there was someone had painted a rock that said "Have a nice day." Is that right?
Yeah. Yep.
And they just left it on the ground. I dare to ask, did you touch the rock?
I didn't. I got really close and took a picture.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Listen, I'd love to keep chatting with you, Tim, but this guy is really not bothering, but just distracting my train of thought. It's too cute.
That precious little jewel sitting on your lap is not bothering you, dude.
No, that's not what I meant to say. But
I know.
It tells you what my brain is thinking like. But let's reconvene at another day, because we're gonna definitely do part 2, like I said.
Sure.
I'd love to go and kind of understand what your understanding of leadership, how you walk that out. Because I mean, you're leading, anywhere from 700 to 900 people, essentially, if you're including volunteers and whatnot. I'm not sure the total numbers as they are, but just that you're leading a lot of people and in different circumstances. It's not like everything we're doing. We're not running 9 cookie cutter glue factories. You're in charge of, or leading us to lead all of these very grassroots, relevant in the area that they are, stations or ministries, and how do you wrestle with that? How do you give advice to this person over here and how we should walk that out over there versus someone who's like myself, who doesn't have a drop-in, So I hope that I can get that question for you. Thank you so much. Tell your wife, say hi.
Thank you.
And also to Clay, not Coles, and say hi to Eli for me.
I will.
Okay, bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm gonna stop.
All right. See you next time.
Yeah, bud. Hold on. Let me just
Thanks.